Hello and welcome to the Public Healthpreneur Podcast. Jovonni, it is so good to have you with me this morning. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you. How are you?
Wonderful. I'm so excited for this conversation today. It's still riding the wave of our news. We are Amazon best-selling authors in several categories, so congratulations to you.
Oh, that is wonderful. This is the first time I'm hearing that. I know we talked about it last night that was our goal, and so this is a great way to start the morning. Okay.
Stories, girl. Several. Okay. I'll send it to you after this. Let's go ahead and get into this interview for
Okay.
this exclusive for our book readers as a part of the bonus content. First thing I want you to do is please tell us a little bit about you, your business, how you serve, the type of consulting that you do.
Sure. So I'm Dr. Jovonni Spinner. I'm the CEO and founder of Beacon Public Health. And the way that I serve is through my organization. So Beacon Public Health, our vision is to diminish the impact of chronic diseases among Black, Indigenous, and people of color and other underrepresented groups as well. And we primarily do our work through a few different programmatic areas. One is around public health programming. So we develop equitable public health programs where we are addressing health inequities. We're looking at systemic barriers. How do we break those down? How do we implement tangible solutions so all of our communities have the ability to live their best life and to be able to thrive? I really believe in people being able to thrive and not just survive in this world, because everyone should have that right. It's a basic human right to be healthy. The other areas that we work on is professional development. So we provide training for public health professionals and our allies and supporters to educate them on health equity, what it is, how do they incorporate it into their work, how do they build sustainable public health programs that meet the needs of their communities, and just provide general consulting work in the public health space. And then there's advocacy and communication. I'm a big proponent of making sure people have credible health information so they can make decisions about their health and the health of others. We know as women, a lot of times we are making decisions not only for ourselves, but also our family members. So we need to make sure that we're well informed and we have information that, is culturally relevant, that looks like us and represents us and our cultural and our social values. So we produce health education campaigns, for example, and we also do advocacy work in terms of like being spokespersons for health equity and talking about health disparities as well. So that's a little bit about the work that we do.
And you do such great work. I love it. And they're going to see kind of the varied experiences and how you serve in the book. So I'm not going to ask you to go too much into your educational background and your career experiences, but I will ask you, what was your favorite public health position so far and why?
That is a really hard one. It's a toss-up for me, honestly. I've had some really amazing position. And I'm one of the fortunate ones that I've always had a public health job that directly aligned with my personal mission, my personal values, and what I wanted to do and what I want my legacy to be when I move on from this earth. So I guess just in the interest of time, I should probably just pick one. I would say one of my favorite ones is when I worked at NIH, so the National Institutes of Health and the National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute. It was partly my favorite for a lot of different reasons. It was one of my first for real public health jobs in the federal workforce. So that was exciting to me. But what was really exciting was the fact that I was working on a community health worker health disparities initiative. And so when I talked earlier about, being able to support and meet communities at their place of need, using the CHW model is one of the most powerful tools that we have as public health folk to be able to bridge that gap between the medical system and community members. Navigating the healthcare system is challenging. I don't care who you are, how much education you have. If you're actually in the healthcare system yourself, navigating it is so challenging. And when you add you becoming a patient within the system, that adds even a more level of complexity, right? So working on this project, being able to develop curriculum around heart disease and asthma, being a part of that, being able to develop those supplemental materials to help consumers make decisions about their health. And then also being able to train community health workers. one of the most unique parts of that project was that NIH, we developed a partnership with the Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, housing authorities, right? Those two organizations, you would not think that they would develop a partnership. But when you think about health in all policies, when you think about multi-sector relationships, when you think about addressing social determinants of health, housing is a key component of that. So this is another example of going to meet people at their place of need and tapping into the housing authorities. And we were able to train residents who lived in different public housing authorities across the U.S. to become community health workers.
I love that.
And so they were able to advocate for their housing authorities. They were able to implement policies that improve their quality of life where they live. And one of the things that I loved the most was the unintentional consequence of the program. We lost community health workers, and we lost them because we invested in them and we trained them, and they went on to find a new job.
Yes.
And so to me, that is a beautiful example of being able to support the community and what can come out of that when you start to invest in people in a holistic and meaningful way.
I love that. And that's why I love working with community health workers, is instilling that self-sufficiency in individuals in the community. That's what we want them to do. We want them to soar and to get new positions and speak up and advocate for themselves. And that's one of the things that I thought was surprising among all four of the authors in the book, is that we all share this common theme of working with community health workers. I love hearing about your experience. So if you could look back at any pivotal moment in your life that led you to where you are today as a full-time entrepreneur and public health consultant, is there a pivotal moment that stands out in your head?
I don't really think it's a pivotal moment for me. I think it's an accumulation of moments for me. Thinking back through like my educational journey and starting off on one career path and finding public health just through some exploration. All of my jobs preparing me for entrepreneurship. Public health is a very broad field, and there are a lot of different competencies. And, you know, sometimes it can be really hard to find like your niche, like where you're going to have the most impact, because you can't do it all. You can't be the epidemiologist. You can't be
you
can't be the researcher, the data analyst, the program, the policy, the everything. But each of my jobs touched on a different competency of public health, which made me a more well-rounded public health consultant and future entrepreneur or current entrepreneur. So I think it was just that accumulation of moments and the realization that the power of your network is what's going to take you the furthest, and really tapping into that. So one thing I tell all of my mentees is you need to follow up with your network. Okay. Don't just come to folks when you want something, right? So it's really about that relationship building. And so that's been very important to me as another accumulation of, you know, different moments, meeting different people, learning about their journeys, their experiences, whether they were entrepreneurs or not, right? Because you can learn from all of them. And then just taking all of those pieces and infusing them into figuring out what I wanted to do and what impact I wanted to make.
I love that. That is so good. So, okay, just like me, I think it was an accumulation of moments as well, but I can think of one pivotal moment. Or maybe the realization when I knew public health entrepreneurship was an option for me. When did you even realize that you could even go into business for yourself and to be a public health consultant? Tell me a little bit about that.
Sure. So I always knew it was an option. So I don't want to tell the complete story away because I do talk about it in the book a little bit. But I think one of the moments was when people started asking me personally to do stuff that was outside of my 9-to-5, right?
Wow.
And it was getting to the point of like, okay, so which version of me do you want? Do you want the federal government representative, or do you want me as the subject matter expert? Those, while they're one and the same, there are some differences, because when you work in the federal government, anyone who knows, it's very structured.
Yep.
All of your talking points are pre-written and they have to be approved by all the powers that be. And so you have to be a little bit more structured. The truth is the truth, and I'm still going to tell the truth, but I can tell it in a different way on my own. So I think having those moments of people saying, hey, well, can you consult on this? Can you do this? Can you come speak about this? And I'm like, okay, now I'm starting to see, okay, there's a need for me,
And your
Dr.
expertise.
Jovonni Spinner, as a
Yes.
subject matter expert versus me as a federal employee. So I think that was one of the moments that I was starting to see, okay, this could be a realization much sooner than I anticipated it to
I
be.
love that. And I think for those that are listening and viewing, you know, you may already be the go-to in the office when it
Right.
comes to fill in the blank. And I think a lot of people don't realize if you are the person that people go to for their questions, their challenges, for whatever the solution that they're seeking, there's a possibility that you could be well suited for public health consulting as well. It's just you have to take ownership of that as a SME. A lot of it is mindset, just not having the confidence, thinking you don't know enough, thinking you need another degree or another certification or whatever that looks like. So I'm so glad that that really was pivotal to you knowing like, hey, he can do this. So,
and I'm not gonna lie, I fell and fall into that trap all the time of thinking, well, am I good enough to do this? Do I need another certification? Should I try to do this? You know, but then at the end of the day, I constantly remind myself, if I was good enough to do this for another employer, then I'm good enough to do it for myself.
Yes.
And I excelled in all of the positions that I had. You know, received numerous awards and accolades for my work. I was a go-to person for, you know, basically every office that I was in. So when those moments of doubts come in, that's when I pull myself to the side and look at the mirror and I'm like, look at here, you can do this. You are doing this. So let's, you know, sit in the, you know, pity pot for a second, pull yourself together and you remind yourself of who you are, what you bring to the table, and realize, like I said, if you were doing it for another organization and they loved it and wanted more of it, you can certainly continue to do this for yourself.
Thank you for your transparency because the pep talks don't stop. It's plenty of days
every day
here, and I'm like, Quisha, today is a great day to have a great day. There are people that need your solutions. You're the answers to some organization's problem, you know, because you have to talk yourself up.
You do.
It never ends. It's that imposter syndrome, if that's the term that you want to use. It never ends, regardless of the heights. But you said it so perfectly. You excelled in every position. People paid you, in those positions to take care of things that you got awards and, you know, accolades from. So absolutely, you can do it for yourself, which speaks to a testament to why your business is successful now. So when you think about all you've accomplished in your career so far, this could be personal or business, what are you most proud of?
I am most proud of the relationships that I have built over time, because that's what's most meaningful for me. Definitely proud of that. I'm proud of the fact that I've been able to secure contracts that provide not only income for me, but income for others. So I do have a team of consultants. And so it does feel good to provide those opportunities for others who, you know, either want to dip their toe into consulting or literally just want to earn some extra income. There are others who just, you know, all of my consultants believe in the vision, but some just want to do good work and be associated with others who are doing the work to kind of supplement their 9-to-5 job as well. So just having that dynamic is what I'm most proud of.
I love that. I love that so much. I'm going to read a quote out of the book and then we can kind of talk about it. I remember when I was reading it, I was like, oh, this is so good. And so this is in your chapter and the section is upsides and downfalls of entrepreneurship. And you said, every day is going to be different. Some days feel glamorous, checking off my to-do list and securing the bag. And others seem like everything is falling apart. I want to scream at the top of my lungs and my tummy is bubbling from stress, causing me to momentarily regret my path and wonder why I chose this life. The late nights trying to figure it out, completing that one task that should have taken 10 minutes. And now it's 2 hours later, wearing multiple hats, having a gazillion client meetings that still don't result in a contract. all while wondering, am I good enough to do this? But I get off the pity pot. I remind myself that I'm built for this, and I have the skills, knowledge, and passion to do the work and do it well. This life is not easy, but I'm happy with the path I've chosen, and I'm willing to take the good with the less than pleasant. When I tell you that resonated with me, because I shared this when we did the live book release last night. I said, I'm really good at sharing my wins, but not very good at sharing my woes. And I think that for people that are considering entrepreneurship of any kind, especially with public health, they got to know it's exactly like you described. The highs are really high, the lows are really low. And there's so much uncertainty and so many, like the bubble guts that you described. I get you. I've been there more times than not. But you're right. You dust yourself off. You stand in the mirror. You speak affirmations and speak life into yourself, and you keep moving. And I love that quote. I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that.
No, other than the fact that, that is real life, right? And you mentioned about not sharing the woes as much. Part of me is not sharing the wins or the woes, to be honest. So I have friends in my life that are saying, well, are you going to tell other people that you did this great, amazing thing? And I'm like, no, I did it. I'm going to move on. So that's part of my reflection journey. It's like giving myself the space and opportunity to celebrate my own wins, right? And to sit in it for a minute. I think
like your TEDx talk. I remember that. I was like,
oh, yeah, that's a whole different. But y'all go watch the TEDx talk. So reclaiming your health. But a lot of times I think, and I don't know, I would say we as Black women, we're just so ingrained to be on the grind, accomplish this, move on to the next. So I'm trying to take a step back to say, okay, I've accomplished this. Let me sit in it for a minute and enjoy the moment before running off to the next thing. Because at what point is it going to be enough, right? What point is there anything else left to accomplish, right? So I want to take that time to really reflect. And then, like you said, also being transparent about the woes, right? I didn't get that contract. I worked on the RFP for, 20, 40 hours and nothing happened. I met with that client 3 or 4 times and they decided to go in a different direction. Or, so there are a lot of things, like you said, you think you're going to turn on your computer and it's a 10-minute activity. Next thing you know, it's 2 hours later and you're trying to figure out how to get this box over here. And you're like, okay, at this point, let me move on. Let me close the computer, come back, refresh, and, maybe something else to happen. But yeah, it is a challenge. It is an emotional roller coaster sometimes, but you have to make sure that you have the discernment to figure out what's for you and what's not for you. You have to figure out what your balance is going to look like. And that's why I am very purposeful about figuring out what is my why, what's motivating me, what is driving me to want to continue to do this work. And when those moments of doubt creep in, or, I've heard the 10th no for this week, then I have to go back and remind myself and reaffirm myself, okay, this is why you're doing this. And this is the impact that you can make and have made and will continue to make.
I love it. And you said, that you're willing to take it. I think for most, especially full-time public health entrepreneurs, even though we go through this roller coaster of emotions, we love what we do so much and the impact that we make so much, we still will take it, hands down, because we get the freedom and the flexibility to work on the projects and work with the people and organizations that we love to work with without those traditional constraints that come if you work in a public health agency. And I know for me, I go through all of this stuff like you shared, but one, having a supportive system is
absolutely
instrumental. 2, keep your therapist on deck. Okay. You have to have some spiritual practice. I'm not saying be religious, right? But you have to have some spiritual practices. And so I know I meditate. I know, of course, therapy. I have my sounding board. So my close friends, family, my spouse. What else do I do? I even have the anti-anxiety coloring book that's on my front not my front porch, my back deck, which is kind of where I do my deep breathing and step away from the office inside of the house. So saying all that kind of leads me to your say yes checklist that I love. I want you to elaborate a little bit about the say yes checklist that you talk about in the book.
Yeah, so the say yes checklist is really just an opportunity to stop and think about an opportunity. So I think a lot of times as, entrepreneurs, we want to say yes to everything because we think we need to do everything for everyone. Well, that's not the case. We all know you can't pour from an empty cup, and you got to fill yours up first before you can go out and serve someone else. But with that, the say yes checklist is really just a few points for you to think. Is this going to bring me joy? Does this align with my mission and vision? Does this, is it going to bring me income that's proportional to the level of effort? Because we got some projects out here, they want you to do the most with the least.
Yes.
And
so good.
That's not sustainable. That's going to lead to burnout, right? So we have to think about those things in that way before we commit to taking on another project. And we need to think about, what is the value add for doing this? And if you say yes to this, what do you have to say no to?
Ooh.
And it's not just a professional no.
Right.
Yes, if you take on this speaking engagement, obviously that time is now blocked. So you can't physically do anything else during that time. But do you have to say no to sleep because you're going to have to stay up late to write your talking points because you got 10 other projects? Are you going to have to say no to going out with your friends for brunch next Sunday because you got to stay in the house and work? Are you going to miss out on your physical activity? You wanted to go take a walk around the lake, but now you can't. Mm-hmm. Or now your mind is too cluttered that you can't really think about anything else but whatever that opportunity is. So we got to think about, what are we sacrificing to get to that yes? And does it align with who we are and what we want and what we need to get to the next level? And I'm not saying this to say that there aren't going to be areas where we have to make compromises. Everything in life is a compromise and a sacrifice at some point, but we just have to be intentional about each of those things and making sure we're not doing too much, because that's what's going to compromise your integrity and your credibility.
I love that. That section just spoke to me so much. And I was like, you know what, I'm about to be, we need to be like Oprah. You get a no, you get a no, you get a no. Oh, to be a resounding thing.
Yes.
For the rest of 2024. I love it. I love it so much. So what advice would you give to someone looking to enter the field of public health entrepreneurship? Sorry.
I would say first, know your stuff. That's hands down. I think anybody's going to tell you that, be knowledgeable about whatever your subject matter expertise is. I would say definitely have a growth mindset, right? Don't get so stuck in your ways where this is the only way, this is the only path forward, because being an entrepreneur means you have to be flexible. You have to be able to pivot, right? You have to keep learning and growing. And you can learn and grow in different areas. And learning doesn't mean you got to go out and get another degree. Okay.
For saying that. Yes.
There are other micro learnings that you could do, learning through your network, learning through readings, learning through trainings. You don't have to commit yourself to another time-consuming, laborious degree to make yourself feel like you are now an expert in that area. I would also tell anyone who's considering entrepreneurship, don't forget your network. A lot of us, our first contracts come from our first degree of people that we know, right? Your close colleague asks you to do something, a friend asks you to do something for their business, etc. But, start building and growing that network so you can get a few degrees out and start generating income, because that's what's going to make you sustainable. You can't sustain yourself off your friends and your family. Okay.
Right.
It's not going to happen. And I would say the last two things is, one, you got to believe in yourself. Mm-hmm. You have to speak truth into yourself and know that this is for you, that you can do it. And you have to believe it so someone else can believe.
I love it. I'm sorry, go ahead. Were you
Mhm.
finished?
And the last thing I was just going to say is we got to get out of the rumination phase. Rip that Band-Aid off and start, because you're never going to know what something is able to do until you start it. You can always refine it later, but you can't refine anything if you haven't started anything, right? So you have to start. You got to tell people that you started too. I was one of those people. I was like, I started, but I didn't tell anybody.
You were a best kept secret.
I surely was, because nobody know that I was over here doing work. Now, think about, isn't that counterproductive to sustainability? If nobody knows you're over here doing it,
absolutely,
how they gonna know to ask for it?
Yeah.
So
listeners, don't be a best kept secret, please. And yes. there are a couple things out. You said something about believing yourself. I always say entrepreneurship is waking up every morning and taking a bet on yourself and a vision that nobody sees but you. And if you are a risk averse person, like I'm the person, I take $20 to the casino. My $20 is gone.
That is me.
When it's gone, let's go to the buffet. Right?
I was gonna say, let's go eat.
So if that is your personality, which obviously you see that's my personality and Jovonni's personality, entrepreneurship, it is going to be like ripping a Band-Aid off. It's going to turn you have to become another animal, so to speak. And when you talked about that growth mindset, I think that's in chapter 8. I mean, I just can't get over, I cannot stress it enough, the type of mindset that is needed to bet on a vision that nobody sees but you every single day, and to put yourself out there and not be a best kept secret. So I absolutely love that. I want to ask a couple other questions before we wrap up our session. What are your favorite projects to work on and why?
I think my favorite projects, I really have an affinity for health education campaigns and trainings.
I can see that.
Yeah. I love a good health education campaign. And people have asked me before, like, why do you keep doing these health education campaigns? And you're not, one, I don't charge for the content, right? Because I want it to be free and accessible to all. And no one has paid me to develop the content either. This is just, again, this is my purpose and this is my value add. Because I really think it's important for us to see ourselves in health education, and to be able to have that information so we can make those decisions about ourselves. So every year I do a health education campaign. I've done 2 so far. I'm getting ready to do a 3rd one, the launch later on in this year. And then the trainings, because it's something about interacting with people and helping them along their journey that just gives you such a warm and fuzzy feeling, or someone having an aha moment, or someone saying, well, I already knew that, but the way that you explained it, now I get it better. Or now I can see how I can actually apply this to my daily work. So we're taking the theory and moving it into practice, and just to kind of see that light bulb and that excitement around people when they're in the training and trying to like really, figure it out per se. So those are my 2 types of favorite projects. So if you want to talk about health education, you want to talk about health equity and training, I'm the person to go to. You can ask my family members. I don't miss an opportunity to get on the soapbox to tell somebody something about their health.
We're both alike. Training is our love language. Teaching and training is definitely our love language. And I was thinking, as you were talking about the education campaigns that you do for free, you don't charge for the content, all of those things. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you're not able to do that if you're not charging other businesses and organizations for the services that you provide to them. Is that not correct?
That is absolutely correct. Now, I will say, in full transparency, the first campaign I did, I paid for it out of my own pocket because as part of my preparation to go into entrepreneurship, I was saving, and anything that I did, like, so I teach, for example. I'm an adjunct professor. So I didn't spend any of that money. That money got automatically invested in my business as like the startup cost.
As it should. That's right.
And so I used that money to do the first campaign.
And that campaign led to other contracts.
Right. Because now people can see the type of work that you do. You have examples that aren't related to your previous 9 to 5. Now, don't get me wrong. I use those examples too, because I led the work and I did the work, and that's right. Still me. But it does say something about your company when you do have your own examples. And to be truthful, sometimes when, these RFPs ask for previous examples, sometimes you're not able to share because that's confidential information. The other client has paid for that service or that product, so you can't give that to somebody else. Right. You can describe it and say what you did, but I'm not going to give you the training slides or the recording from another client.
Right.
So yeah.
I love that you shared that nugget about how important it is for you to reinvest in the business to produce your first whatever it is. Because it's kind of like when we talked about being the best kept secret. You could be the best graphic designer, but until you actually put some stuff together and share it with the world, nobody knows. So that's such great advice there. So my last question is, how can businesses work with you, and how can they get in contact with you?
The easiest way is to go to my website, beaconpublichealth.com. You can fill out an info form, and then someone from the team will reach back out to you. Or you could send an email directly to info@beaconpublichealth.com. And we'll be happy to set up an introductory meeting to learn more about what your needs are, what your gaps are, and how we could be of service to help you fulfill your mission.
I love it. This has been a wonderful conversation. Thank you again for your contributions to the book, and just for being a part of my network and personal board of directors. Read the book if you want to know what I'm talking about there. Thank you so much, Jovonni, and have a great rest of your day. We'll talk again soon.
All right. Thank you.